Welcome everybody to another Joe Fixes It how-to video. Today we're working on my 1989 Mark II Jetta Diesel. The project today is to change the front main bearing seal on the engine. This is an oil seal that prevents the engine oil from leaking out on the ground around the front main crankshaft bearing. As to why this thing's leaking after about 30,000 miles of rebuilding the engine, that's pretty much your best guess. It could be a defective seal. I could have put it in slightly askew. Could be dirt. Could be that I let the thing sit for a couple of months without driving it and the seal dried out and then stuck to the crankshaft and you started it up and it tore the seal surface. That last is probably the most common. In order to gain access to this bearing, we're going to have to remove several things. We're going to have to remove the air cleaner box, the timing belt cover, the timing belt, and the crankshaft sprocket in order to get this seal out and replace it, and then put it all back together. And as you may already know, I have a lot of experience with these Mark II Jettas. Mark II pretty much means Volkswagens made through 1985 through 1991. Anyway, let's get on with this. First order of business is to get the air cleaner housing out of the way. I use cable ties for the hold downs. They're a little bit hard to reach, but air cleaner housing. Next is to get this cover off. It's got 3 clips and a small nut to hold it on. Now let's go down below and get the other half of the timing belt cover off. But before we do that, we have to get some of these shrouds off that are in the way. Let's access. Now we have the wheel boot out, we can better see the pulleys. And even before we can get that cover off, we have to take all these pulleys off and belts, which is pretty simple. You don't have to worry about loosening them up to get them off. This is a quick and dirty way of getting them off. See how easy that went? Now you'll notice I'm using an air impact to take them off. When you put them back on, put them back by hand and don't make them very tight. They're only like 12 foot-pounds. People that put these on with the air impact wrench and tighten them down make it a nightmare to get them back off. You see how easy those came off? That's because I put them on by hand. This is the bottom half of the timing belt cover. That is the crankshaft. That is the intermediate shaft right there. On the bottom is the crankshaft. The top is the intermediate shaft. It's driven by the belt and it powers the vacuum pump through a camshaft that goes through the center of the engine. On the underside of that big silver pulley is a seal that's leaking. I'm going to replace that seal, although it appears not to be leaking. Let's get on with it. Before we pull the timing belt off and the pulleys, we want to set the engine to top dead center for reference when we have to retime it. We just got to roll this around until the index marker comes up. There you go. Top dead center on the flywheel. To make sure that you're not 180 degrees off, there's an index marker on the pulley that drives your injection pump and an index marker there. Make sure they're lined up. If this is down here, then you need to rotate the engine around another 180 degrees. We're on the money, we have it where we want it, so let's go ahead and get the belt off by loosening up the tensioner with a 15mm wrench. This is the first pulley to be removed right there. I got my special homemade tool to hold it in place. is this cover right here, the seal housing. It comes off and we can replace the seal on the workbench. And that's exactly what we're going to do. As you can see, the oil has been running out of the shaft. This is what holds the intermediate shaft in. This is the seal that's actually leaking. When you pull this thing off, you can actually pull the intermediate shaft out. You really don't want to do that. You can't take it out anyway because of the frame blocks you getting it out. This is the seal housing that we just pulled out. It has an O-ring here. This is the seal. Removing the seal isn't complicated. Well, maybe for some people it's not. No more complicated than that. Take this apart, clean it up with some carburetor cleaner or whatever solvent you got. Brand new seal. You can almost push it in with your hands. Okay, we've got a new seal put in it, new O-ring on the back. It's time to put it back in. And a little bit of thread locking compound on the end of the bolt. Alright, finally, that bit of drama is over. I don't think it's leaking. I think it all came from up there, but since we're here, we're gonna do it. So we'll put our hold down on here. So we'll have to sit there and patiently dig that thing out. Now we have the seal out. Of course, you destroy it in the process and get all the dirt out of there. Otherwise, we'll be doing it again. We've got the new seal. Let's get her put back in. So we'll put this thing back on. So let's run our bolt in. There you go, 137 foot-pounds. Take this guy back off. I'm going to bring the engine around back to top dead center because we've moved it, and then we're going to put the timing belt back on. Now, we've got the seals in. I replaced the intermediate shaft seal and the crankshaft seal. I retorqued them. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a new timing belt in. Since I've got it apart, it makes no sense not to replace a wear item. First thing we're going to do is put the special tool in here to hold the injection pump in the proper position. We're going to go ahead and remove the valve cover. Put our locking pin in the camshaft. The camshaft is locked. I'm going to break the top camshaft bolt loose. As you can see, it spins free on there. Tighten it down to where it just moves and there's almost no play. And the belt is on. We can pull that pin out and tighten the belt down. We'll snug this down there. This is where we set our belt tension. You're supposed to be able to bend it 90 degrees with your thumb and forefinger. This is loosed on the camshaft, so we will just bring crankshaft around the top dead center and lock it in place. And that's exactly where it is because I set it a while ago. We'll torque this bolt down to 33 foot-pounds. And so our valve timing is set in place. Then we can move on to setting the injection timing. This is the plug. Don't lose it and don't get any dirt on it. This is dial gauge we use to set the injection pump timing. And we simply slide it in here. You can see that it screws into the front of the injection pump there. But that's the gauge that I use to adjust it. Turn the engine backwards and forwards and bring it up on top dead center. We'll rotate the engine backwards until the little arrow stops moving, and then we'll rotate the face around until it's 0, and then we'll rotate the engine back clockwise until we hit top dead center. That will be our millimeters in lift. So after we went backwards, zeroed it, and it comes out almost exactly 1 millimeter of lift. That is what the book calls for, and that's where we're gonna leave it. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing put back together. It's pretty much putting everything back in reverse order. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. I got a little more than I bargained for because I was just planning on doing the front main seal when it turned out to be the intermediate shaft seal. So I did both. That way I know it's not gonna leak because it's a pain in the butt to take this apart. If you find this interesting, subscribe to the channel. I work on them all the time. I have a shop. I've had them for quite a number of years now, and there's not much that I won't tackle on one of these things. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.